I spoke to a journalist from the BBC the other week regarding schools going back in a week or so without any mitigations in place to protect them against catching COVID. I spoke about how the government would just simply lie in saying schools were COVID safe, that Boris Johnson was contradicting himself all the time. 1 minute the kids are vectors of transmission, the next minute they're not and everything's fine. I spoke about long COVID in children, about how they're affected at a similar rate to adults. I spoke about my son's best friend getting long COVID. I spoke about kids getting organ damage. I spoke about the increased hospitalisations, how 1,153 children were hospitalised in England in July with COVID, 5 of whom are now dead. An article came out today featuring this interview. Was any of this at all in the article? No, not a bit of it. The only bit that made it into the article was that I've got an underlying health condition and that I'm heartbroken that my son would not be starting secondary school. But then I did add, it's not my fault, it's the government's fault for not making sure that his school is going to be safe. I was described as concerned, worried and fearful, which I find a little bit patronising. Would you describe a man in those terms? Would you describe Dr. Anthony Fauci, Chief Medical Advisor in the US, as fearful? Because he's basically saying the same as I did. He sounded the alarm bell saying kids are getting sick from the Delta variant of the virus, and anyone who thought that children were immune to being hospitalised with COVID were wrong and needed to get the facts. There's a little bit that you said afterwards. You said, studies show that children are much less likely to get serious ill. Well, Fauci would say this in reply to you. Again, the numbers compared to the elderly are less, but that's a false comparison. So, yeah, I'm quite annoyed that I've been misrepresented. I'm annoyed that my worries have been dismissed like it's my problem somehow, how I'm anxious, paranoid, silly for being concerned, when in fact it's the government's fault for underestimating COVID in children and not making schools safe. That's all. Thank you.